Welcome to Corporate Law Lab. We have a special guest today because he's our first repeat guest, George Vincent, who was last year as the recently departed, not recently
I gotta
departed.
get that.
You didn't die,
Yeah.
but you stopped being managing partner at Dinsmore at some point. And now you're here as, for I guess, 5 months now, the
It
General
almost 5
Counsel
months, that's right.
of Kroger. So welcome back.
Great to be back. I appreciate the chance.
So I guess I wanted to talk about when I saw the email that had the press release announcing, I said, "Wow, didn't see that coming." Did you see it coming? Is this how did this come about? To the
That's a
extent you're happy to talk about
yeah,
it.
that's a great question, Neil. So you may recall from our last conversation that Dinsmore has a 5-year phase down for partners, and I was halfway through that this year. And I was supposed to be working half time, get paid half what I was getting paid before. And my wife pointed out to me that I was working every single day, and I kept getting new stuff. Clients asked me to do additional things, and new clients came in. And Ron Sargent, who is the interim CEO at Kroger, and I have known each other for some long number of years, and he had asked me to consider work at Kroger. Talked to my wife, thought about it, and said I was ready for another challenge. I wasn't ready to retire. I always admired Kroger. I'd always wondered what it would be like to be on the other side of the table, being in-house counsel as opposed to being outside counsel. Always respected the company. Its business, always on the grocery business, interesting. So talked to back and forth around for a while and took the job. And here I am, almost 5 months later. People keep asking, would you do it again? I absolutely would do it again, which to me, that's the ultimate sign. People are you happy? And sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not, but would you do it again? I absolutely would do it again.
So, you said you'd known Kroger before, and you'd known Ron Sargent before. Were those two different relationships?
Yeah, different relationship. I had done some work for Kroger, but I did an awful lot of. Procter & Gamble was a significant client of the firm and mine, and you got to know the grocery business because they sell consumer packaged goods through different distribution outlets, Kroger being one of them. So I was pretty familiar with how that side of the business looked, selling to Kroger. Then I'd done corporate work for Kroger on and off for a number of years. So I got to know people inside the legal department because of that. And that intrigued me as well because they were sharp folks. It was an easy, yeah, I'll say it was an easy decision to make in the end. Hard to leave Dinsmore. I love Dinsmore. 43 years there. I still have an elevator pass. Like I keep in touch with my secretary and a lot of people back there.
You hear that, Josh? He's still got an elevator pass.
Yeah, I know, which Josh let me keep. God bless him. And I expect that when I retire from Kroger, whatever that is, I'll go back to Dinsmore again. That's always going to be my home.
You get to start the 5-year rundown over?
No, I'll come back and just be the guy who is happy to have an office and a place to get out of the house.
So we talked a lot when you were here with Josh about the culture that you and Josh and others had built over at Dinsmore, 45 years?
43 years, almost to the day.
Okay.
Almost to the day.
So when you look at that culture that you had built over that time and the culture at Kroger and an in-house role, what are the immediate differences that come to mind, and what has been the hardest part to adjust to?
It's a really interesting question. First of all, just you don't have to record your time. I never minded recording time. I did it every day. At the end of the day, every day. You don't do that at Kroger. That you have one client. It's Kroger. As opposed to having multiple clients. You're not looking to get new clients. You already have the only client you're ever going to need. But after that, it's pretty much the same. You want to provide great service, great advice to your client. We've divided our department at Kroger into different specialties. I have the legal side, and I'm also have the ethics and compliance side. I guess I'm the chief ethics officer as well as the general counsel, executive vice president, and secretary. A lot of titles.
But that's the thing in corporate. You have to have a lot of titles so that people understand what you are. I mean, when I first joined, I think it was an associate GC at Avnet, and people would ask me, they'd say, "What's your title?" And I'd say associate general counsel, and who do you report to? because it didn't mean anything
Right.
to them about whether they had
Right.
to listen to you or not if you were, with a law department title. And so that's why we all, by the time I left, I think I was a senior vice president of one thing and a vice president of two
Right.
others, and
And titles have meaning in a law firm. You're a partner
right,
or you're an
partner,
associate or you're
associate,
of
or of
counsel.
counsel.
Right. That's
Those are your
and
choices.
people kind of figure out what that means.
Yeah.
And in a law firm, it's one person, one vote. At least it was at Dinsmore. And here, there's a hierarchy. There's the CEO, and then there's executive vice presidents, and there's group, and all the way down. Everybody kind of knows that hierarchy. That was new to me, and I still haven't figured all that out. Um, but in the end, you're servicing a client, you're providing legal services and legal advice that are brought to you by business people, and you try and solve those problems. And you try and find a way to get to yes. Sometimes the answer is like, not that way, but this way. And that's our job. Try and help the business navigate the legal and regulatory requirements of what they want to do.
You talked about having more of a democratic process at the firm. Are you tempted to be more democratic when you're running the law department? Where I think I'm pretty sure I stole this from someone else, but it was everyone gets input. I'm the only one voting on legal matters. It was kind of the way I
I'm
looked
stealing
at
that, but that sounds pretty good.
it.
So we've got divided into groups. So I think we've got 7 direct reports, and then a bunch of people who report to those people. But it's, we're all lawyers, and we're all trying to get through the day. And I couldn't even tell you what the titles of my people are. I know what function they serve and who they are and what they do. So I think it is fairly democratic, at least in our department. We're all just trying to get the job done, move the ball forward a little bit each day.
You when you talk about the business and that you'd seen it from the point of view of like P&G selling into the business, um, I always used to say to people in the business that my differentiator was that I understood the business so that
Yeah.
I could speak the business language to them and serve a translator role between inside and outside counsel and the business, being able to speak both the business's language and the legal language. You've obviously speak legal after all these years. How long has it taken you to feel comfortable with the business, and I can just pile questions on top of each other so there's nobody to object to multiple questions. Um, when you look at that, then what's really surprised you about the business that you didn't know from the outside?
I think I understood. I've always had a business mind. I've always liked business. I've served on multiple corporate boards, clients, which gives you a feel for the business. And then having a managing partner at Dinsmore for so long, you're running the business, you're growing the business, you're putting budgets together, you're reviewing financial statements, you're driving things. So that was not a big adjustment for me. Second question was?
About anything about the business that
Oh, so anything surprised
there
me?
was a surprise that like, oh, I didn't know that we spend so much time licensing, or
Well, that's so Kroger maintains 72,000 licenses, which my response, which I was shocked by.
wow.
There's 2,700 stores, over 400,000 employees, 44 manufacturing plants, distribution centers. And you think about a can of corn. Somebody has to plant the corn, harvest the corn, ship the corn somewhere. It gets processed. It gets canned. It gets sent to a warehouse. It gets sold to us. We put in a distribution center. It then gets delivered to a store, and then you buy it. You think about it, all those things have to happen seamlessly, and they do, to provide the consumer what he or she needs or wants at that time. Think about that. I didn't think about that as a consumer until you get to Kroger and you understand all the different parts that have to come together. And you have to be able to point your phone at the UPC code and understand how many we've sold today, how many we expect to sell tomorrow, how many we have here, and how many we need to order from the distribution center. Then triggers how many they need to order from Del Monte. And it just goes, and it's constant movement, constant interaction. Data drives so much of what gets done by everybody. You don't think about that either. But data drives everything in that store.
How does the data get created, or do you have I always tried to avoid having a bunch of people, at least in the legal department, whose jobs it was to feed the data monster, because the data monster always wanted more data.
Yep.
how do you balance that in terms of producing the data, understanding the data,
So
reviewing the data?
So selling, it's art and science. You need to know how many you sold last year and the year before, what the trend is, and how. Use corn for example. We've 4 different kinds of corn. Which one selling? Which one's trending up? What's trending down? And there's something new coming. And how many SKUs, self-keeping units, are you going to ascribe to that particular piece of brand of corn, can of corn? How many sizes are there? All that comes into play. And with the merchandising folks, that's all they think about. And you get different merchandising people assigned to different parts of the grocery store, and they own that. And they've got to predict correctly, and you've got to get stuff there just in time. You don't want to have the cases of corn. You want to have enough for today or tomorrow and get a delivery tomorrow to cover the next couple of days. And all that's got to come together. And that's a very delicate dance that data informs, but an individual's got to make a call whether the data is right or not. At some point, maybe AI will do that better than any of us can do. But right now, there's lots of human beings involved making decisions based on the data, not solely with it.
You mentioned AI, and that's something when I see lawyers talk about AI, or we see we get from Lexis and all of that. Most of what you see is some idiot that asks AI to write.
He's looking at me when he said that.
No, I didn't. Somebody that asks ChatGPT to write their brief and then is surprised when it's
The
not
cases
all
don't
perfect.
exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you read those cases, by the
oh.
way? It's fascinating. And the one guy who gets smacked down, he then has ChatGPT do his response, and the wrong case is cited again. No longer practicing.
But when you look at AI and Kroger and in the legal department, is it in use now? Do you have plans to expand it? How do you what's your crystal ball say about how AI is going to impact the work of
I
corporate
think
legal
AI is going
departments?
to simplify things greatly. It's not going to do all the work for you, but today it'll give you a hell of an outline and a hell of a first draft for lots of things. And you got to go in and read it and make sure it fits. But rather than starting from scratch, or even taking a form, you simply say, I need a contract that has, and you specify the 14 things. Here's what I'm concerned about. And the product it produces is remarkable. Now, I'm an old dog, so new tricks, difficult. I've got an AI buddy who coaches me every 2 weeks to make sure I'm doing more stuff. But I think if I'm 25, 26 years old, I'm using that every single day. I mean, it's second nature, and that's what's coming. And it's not going to replace humans, but it's going to make tasks faster, easier, probably more thoughtful.
So you think of it as like, I remember back in the 80s when financial calculators came out, scientific calculators, and there was a group of purists that said, if you don't know how to do it with the slide rule, you'll never understand
I
it.
still have a slide rule.
You still have the slide rule?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you use it all the time, or
Never use a calculator. But think, we went to the moon with slide rules. You look
Right.
in the movies that they're actually using them.
But it hasn't stunted the growth of the world of physics because nobody knows how to use a slide rule in today's generation. Do you look at AI the same way, as that it's a tool that will make us better, faster?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes. I don't think we know what then it will look like, but it's going to be different than now. Ways I'm not sure we can entirely predict. Just like no one could really expected you to have on your phone the power of every computer that existed in 1969. That's your AI buddy calling you there.
To not turn off the ringer.
Mm.
No, I mean, I remember in the 90s, we were all carrying around 5 different devices. You had your pager and your Palm Pilot, and
I refused to get any of those things until I finally had no choice but to get a phone. And
then all the things that the other things used to do just came into your phone.
Yes, it's phenomenal camera. It does. No one. Dick Tracy predicted it, but it was science fiction. And I think AI is going to be kind of like that. It's going to become so ingrained in who we are and what we do. 5 years from now, we won't even think about it.
All right. Well, thank you for that detour. I'll get back to what I told you we were going to talk about. You talked about you have 7 direct reports. Is it subject matter expert driven, or is it business unit driven?
Subject matter.
Okay. And how do you then get is it just not just one big business unit? I assume you've got healthcare
Yep.
and
And so that gets subdivided and that cuts across multiple of our groups.
okay. With a monster company like that, I know when I had 15,000 employees to think about, I knew that one of them somewhere was doing something I'd rather they not be doing. Do you have those kind of worries, thoughts? I mean, because at Dinsmore, you could pretty much get your arms around. You may not know everybody personally once you got to 1,000 lawyers, but there's nobody you couldn't get to in one step.
That's
Right?
correct. And they all kind of knew who I was, which
Right.
was helpful. And that's different here. Obviously, all the lawyers know who I am. I think a lot of the business people, but 400,000 employees, it's a small fraction will ever know who I am and recognize my name. That's different. It's a huge enterprise. So I worry about it every day. In some form or fashion, I do. Where's the business going? How are we going to get from here to there? How to become more profitable, more efficient, sell more groceries. So anybody who's listening, shop Kroger.
Well, and you can also send any comments and questions you have to George. Like if you
It's
think
just-
that the butter should be stocked more
call
often.
555-1212. Leave a message.
So you have these different business units, not business units. You have different subject matter experts reporting to you. Any of them doing anything that you just like don't have a clue about? And I know for me, the real estate guy, I know this isn't the case for you. For me, the real estate guy, I had no idea what it was he or she was doing.
Food safety regulations. I mean, I'm aware of them, but the testing that has to be done, we got compliance people. I mean, we make an awful lot of our own brands. It's Private Selection, Simple Truth, Kroger brands. And those plants, they're testing almost every minute of every day what's being done. And I understand that that's being done, but I have no understanding of the regulations, how they're enforced, and who's doing what to who. We got people, that's all they worry about. Thank goodness.
And do you find those people easy to manage or?
I find the people who manage them easy to manage.
Gotcha.
I've been to a couple plants to see how we do what the processes look like and meet people and get a feel for that. Again, you take for granted what you get off the shelf. You forget all the stuff that goes into it.
How do you think about if you've got all subject matter experts working for you, how do you develop in them the next generalist that 10, 20 years from now when you've had enough of this and decide to go back to Dinsmore, how do you develop that person from a subject matter expert or does the next GC always come out from outside? In fact, I think you're the first one who's come
I
from
believe that's correct.
outside a long time.
Christine
right?
Wheatley, my predecessor, was a long-time Kroger. Paul Heldman, predecessor, same thing. My theory is to do that, you've got to have exposure to all different areas. You don't have to be an expert. And there's not been a whole lot of rotational movement at Kroger historically, but I think we're going to have people kind of, you've done privacy for several years. Let's try some securities work and understand the litigation, get a feel for how that works. So I think we're going to have some cross-training,
I always found
cross-development more than training, I guess.
okay. So yeah, so you say, okay, you've become great at this. I'm now going to move you into something that helps.
Don't give
you
all that
develop
up, but I'd
further.
like you to understand this piece as well. And
Okay.
so here's 6 or 7 things to work on in that area. And I think one of the, you know this as well as me, one of the great things about being a lawyer is you get to expose to so many different things, and a chance to learn something new is always exciting. I know enough about a lot of things to be dangerous and about some things to be actually pretty good, but the things that you know enough to be dangerous about, those are really interesting.
I'll give you another line that you can steal. I used to introduce myself as I'm general counsel, which means I know very little about a lot of different things.
Which is totally true, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
How's it been interacting? Has it been a change interacting with so many non-lawyers at the
No.
executive level?
Because when you're a lawyer, most of your day you're talking to clients,
Right.
And working on client matters, and that's just and running the business, running Dinsmore as a business. That's been, I don't want to say easy, but been a pretty smooth transition.
Your management style is how would you describe your management style, and have you felt like you needed to adapt it at all for this new role?
No, I've let others judge my management style, but to listen, make suggestions. I'm not going to dictate results. I'm not going to dictate, you've got to do these 7 things. I'm going to suggest, hey, you might want to do this. You try and lead by example. If you get in early, get work done, walk around, to know people, um, motivate, meet people where they are, not where you want them to be, and try and steer the ship in the direction where it's got to go. And others that can be the judge of if I do that well or not.
Have you how have you dealt with the number of meetings that every corporate executive gets to add to their calendar?
There's lots of meetings. Almost all of them have a purpose. And at this point, after almost nearly 5 months, I'm still learning something every single day. So every meeting that I've been to, every meeting, I've learned something. And I've told people, as long as I'm learning something, this is a great job. When I stop learning, it's time for me to start thinking about retiring again. But so far, every day is something new, interesting. People are really focused on Kroger. People say, what's the biggest surprise? It's almost a family business. It's remarkable how many people have been there for 20, 30, 40 years. They've got cousins, parents work there. They got a spouse who works there, neighbors. It's remarkable how much people refer to Kroger to me, my Kroger. It's I didn't expect the family business feel that it exudes. But it's been a delightful surprise.
Have you had to travel much, or have you been able to stay at HQ pretty much, or do you want to travel more?
So I've traveled a little bit. Been to DC, I've been to Houston, been to Phoenix, been to Wichita, but that's it. I think I've been in West Coast in January. I'm happy to stay in Cincinnati as much as I can. You travel when you have to.
Are there things that you as GC feel like, I have to do this myself? Or are you comfortable with your team pretty much taking on, you're providing guidance, you're not a doer? Or are there things that you're like, no, this is mine, I'm going to do it?
There are a number of things that are mine where I'm going to do it. And I need to do it. The company expects me to do it.
What kind of, area-wise, without getting into like specific?
Significant matters.
So, like, for me, there's no way that any M&A activity, and I know you're not going to talk about M&A activity as the GC of a public company, but there was no way that I wasn't going to be involved in anything M&A. That was just kind of like,
that's your sweet spot, right?
Yeah. It's both your sweet spot. It's also the most fun thing you'll get to do as GC.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we'll leave that at that. What did I miss?
Indiana's national championship. Michigan fan. I think Michigan root for Indiana to go all the way. They looked, I thought, outstanding in the Big Ten championship game. Hell of a coach. Quarterback's really good. And I thought both sides of the ball on the line, they're strong. It's a hell of a team.
I honestly can't. The big part for me that surprises me every time is I'm kind of used to the Indiana teams that would have like a decent quarterback, Babe Laufenberg, Trent Green, one receiver that could do the thing, and no one else. So, like, if we could score every time we had the ball, it's possible that the defense would hold the other side to a field goal occasionally, and we'd win the occasional game that way. This, where we have a defense that just goes after people. What?
Would you say? I had to take 4 times?
Yeah, I think so.
Michigan literally did not touch the guy.
Yeah.
It's a really good team. And the change in Indiana fans has been really interesting because Indiana fans kind of have, okay, we lost last second. You almost expected to lose. And I think there's still shock and surprise how good the team is, but it's becoming kind of fun to watch a little swagger in the Indiana fans.
Yeah, we're getting there a little bit, but yeah, it's, we all know, as we say, well, we're going to win. You're kind of like, but we have to play Alabama or Oklahoma next. We don't play Alabama or Oklahoma at Indiana,
But I talked to us a little bit before we went on the air. Coach makes a huge difference. A leader makes a huge difference. And he's got those kids, young men, believing that they're going to win. And they do.
My favorite thing was, it was one of the games. It was one of the games that we were expected to win. And we didn't play particularly well in the first half. We're winning like 10-7. and they asked, and the announcers are like, "Boy, Signetti's gonna give them an earful at halftime." And they asked him after the game, "What'd you say to the team at half? How did you get them to rouse them? Did you really get after them?" And he said, "No, I told them to calm down. I told them to relax,
Yeah.
take it one play at a time, everything would be fine." Which, if you came from Indiana, I was there, Bobby Knight threw the chair. And that's just a
It,
completely different way of looking at management and looking at managing
both
young
ways are
people.
effective. You've got to be who you are and
Yeah.
who your players know you to be. And I think he's done that magnificently. And he had a lucky break at the Penn State game. That unbelievable catch at the back of the end zone preserves the undefeated season. Was that 2 inches?
If 2
Yeah.
inches to 2 millimeters, it was
But you need something
unbelievable.
like that in a season like this. And
Yeah.
they got it when they needed it.
Yeah.
It's been fun to watch.
And we'd also like to send flowers to the Ohio State kicker that shanked the 27-yard field
Yeah, I
goal
feel badly
us.
for him.
I did feel badly for him, but at that point, I turned to my wife and said, "Oh my God, I think we're gonna beat Ohio State." I mean, it's happened literally once in my lifetime,
I think they'd won 44 straight.
Yeah, it was 1988
Yeah,
the
it
last
was
time we beat
outrageous.
them. Yeah.
Crazy number. How things at the law school? I got to ask you a couple questions. Are you
Law school,
enjoying what you're doing?
It's going great. I've added the externships to the corporate law center. Both things have probably suffered a little bit as a result, as I'm trying to figure out how to make them work together. But adding externships has been great because it's given me a reason to pick up the phone and call somebody like
Yeah.
you, other than I'm having a symposium
Yeah.
again. A, come to it. B, give me some money. Here we go. So that's been great, and it's really helped me learn. I knew Cincinnati at the Dinsmore, Taft, Frost level. Those firms. I'm sorry, KMK, 4As. I could keep going until I stop offending somebody. Thompson Heim, Baker Hostetler, Squire Patton. But I knew those people because that's where I interviewed when I was here. I'd worked at Katz Teller in the summer, but what I really didn't have was connection to the next layer
Yep.
of size of firms, not quality, size. And the so I've gotten to know some of the smaller firms that are doing amazing things and that are happy to work with us once we reach out to them. So it's really been that's been a lot of fun for me. I'm also trying to expand the program. Can't look at anything
If you're not
try
growing,
to
you're
make
falling
it
behind.
exactly.
You got to be better every day.
So I've taken a class that was supposed to be limited to 40 and 49 last semester and 47 this coming
Good for you.
semester. Yeah. But so that part's really fun. We're going to have the symposium again in March. This time we're doing corporate ethics and compliance 30 years after Caremark. So I think it's topical at least.
Very topical.
Things like you look at like SEC enforcement has fallen off a cliff in terms of what they're doing. And what do you do if you're running an SEC compliance program? Do you go, "Oh, the watchers aren't watching. I think I'll take it easy"? Nobody's going to do that. But on the other hand, what is I guess I'll pose it back to you as a question. The ROI of compliance is more than just compliance, right? So how do you think about that as a general counsel, in terms of how do you promote the right culture so that you don't have to be up all night worried about what one of those 400,000 is up to?
Then it's culture. And how do you inculcate into people a handful of things that have to be top of mind? And one, you got to do what's right. Even if it costs you money, you got to do what's right. You got to make it right with the customer. You got to make it right with the supplier. Make it right with your employees. And if you got that mindset, compliance is, I want to say easy, but easier. If you don't have that compliance, you're never going to get a compliance program that's going to bad things. If people have got the wrong perspective, the wrong attitude, and the wrong culture. You can't have enough compliance people because people have to self-regulate.
And that's something that I worry about in compliance. I ran a very small program at Avnet, partly because we were in a reseller business. We weren't making anything, and we weren't dealing with public as our customer, pure B2B. And other people who had much, much, much larger compliance programs who were, manufacturers like, well, look at my program and say, oh, you're taking too big a risk not having all those people around. And my response was, I don't want them to feel like they can outsource compliance to the person I've put in their business unit. I want them to feel responsible
correct.
for it.
Compliance should deal with the outliers, not try and dictate to everybody. You got to have a culture where people know what's right and know that if they see something wrong, they can report it without fear. And that culture will perpetuate itself. And compliance will assist, and there's always someone who's going to, they'll deal with the outliers. But if you've got to come in and deal with the entire culture, there's not enough compliance people in the world.
Great.
To me, it falls on the leaders of the entity, got to set the culture and set the tone and demand, I'll say demand compliance with that culture. Because otherwise, there's no holds barred. Everybody's going to do what he wants to do. Can't have that.
Well, especially when you are in a business, we would occasionally joke when I was in electronics that, well, we're not saving lives here. I mean,
Yeah.
weren't, but we were selling semiconductors. When you're selling food, it matters. It matters
Yes.
all day, every day, and there's no getting around that someone is going to eat this stuff.
And that's a huge responsibility that people take it really seriously at Kroger. You go into stores and you find something that's not perfect. It's off the shelf. You see stuff reduced price. If we get to 2 days left, expiration date, stuff gets marked down because we don't want to waste it. So if you see something where it says reduced at Kroger, it's great to buy because that's when you want to buy it. Which I didn't know that till I got them. Now I look for the reduced stickers when I go shopping. Don't tell anybody I said that.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
we're just recording
Okay.
this. All right. Thanks very much. I mean, I'd love to do this again periodically. We'll have you back every year or something.
Neil, I'd love to
We'll
do
see
it.
how
I enjoy
these-
you. I enjoy doing this. I listened to your Alan Avis interview. It was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Alan's a hell of a guy. Just got elected to the Dinsmore board.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Neil, always good
All
to
right.
see you. Thank you.
too.